in the chambers of City Hall, there were people yelling racial epithets, baby killers, oppressors, every nasty thing you can think of, and they were pushing. And these women, who are my heroes, these two ladies, they were up against a lot of physical aggression. But what happened was, at the end, when I walked out, it really did feel like this idea of never again has to be for every Jew everywhere. We have to draw the line, and Jews need support wherever they are. So that day we filed the articles to start the Chicago Jewish Alliance with this idea that no Jew would have to be alone in this fight after October 7th in the diaspora.
Daniel, we're doing this just us today, which is a little bit different. And we have a very special story to tell today, one that people have been asking us to do. And I'm glad we're finally doing it.
Finally got together to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the big news that I think people who have been following us on social media and our newsletter and other things might have heard is we're launching American Jewish Alliance.
Yes. And it's a testament to the team in Chicago who has, on a limited budget and resources, really created something that has been so powerful after October 7th. Obviously, I'm talking about the Chicago Jewish Alliance, and it has been just remarkable to see. And with that success, we have been able to solidify the kind of the intellectual and social capital, as well as the economic capital, to launch this national and bring unapologetic Zionism to cities that really need it beyond Chicago. So it's really exciting.
It is. I really think I started noticing other cities start reaching out to us, especially when the Israelism screenings were happening. And we were dealing with those in the Northbrook Library and other places. And we started to get a lot of reach out from people all over the country asking, we're dealing with this here too. You guys dealt with it so well. How do we deal with it? And it just continue to snowball for this, I want to say almost this past year.
Yeah, I think so. Two things from that. I think first off, we found out that there was a need in the marketplace for kind of what we were doing in Chicago simultaneously. People in other pockets of the country were dealing with it. And the honest truth was, when we relied on institutions, or we were hoping that these institutions, Jewish ones, were going to show up for us, we saw that in a lot of different cities, it kind of came down to the community itself, the Jewish community and the allies, to do something about what was happening in their communities. And so the Chicago Jewish Alliance, which is a grassroots mobilization force, really shows up on the grassroots level. So there were a lot of federal agencies like APEC, for example, that does tremendous work at a national and state level. But there was nobody showing up in the community when these films were coming to these communities. And so we mobilized in Chicago and had a bunch of successes, stopping it, stopping some of this propaganda from coming into our schools. And we'll get there, I'm sure. But into our cities and our municipalities. And then so we saw these people reach out to us with the same kind of need, and they saw our successes. And they were like, kind of, what is the playbook? How are you leveraging the community to stop this? And so,
especially because we know, I don't want to say opposition, but we know there's a playbook happening with the coordinated efforts
on the
other side that we're trying to combat. So the need for this kind of, we are doing it in a way that people are seeing be effective, and the need for this kind of playbook, or how we were able to, and it's always funny to me because, I don't think people know this, but Chicago Jewish Alliance for the longest time was all volunteer based.
Right.
We now finally have, and very recently, our 4th full-time staff member at Chicago Jewish Alliance, but that is all extremely recent. For a long time, it was a completely volunteer team. And we were able to be so, we lived and breathed it.
Yeah.
We're like crazy people every single day, all of us, 24/7.
Well, it showed up on our doorstep, and I think we couldn't look away. And I think some people in our community, in our ecosystem, and it's ubiquitous across the country. I think there were a lot of people who stood up in this moment, were confronted with it on their doorstep. And that really brings us to what the foundation for Chicago Jewish Alliance was. I mean, when I'll just say it. So how we started the Chicago Jewish Alliance was, well, we heard about in Chicago, they were passing a resolution for Gaza. And we heard that the
ceasefire resolution, which I don't know what the city of Chicago has any say about what a different country's government is doing.
Right.
And anyway, I remember all the memes of like Israel says ceasefire Chicago with all of our shootings.
Yeah, which is crazy, right? And I think like what it happened in all these other cities too, right? With Chicago, I think Chicago might have been the first.
I don't think it was a first. No. Again, this was a coordinated, targeted effort that was being done of these resolutions in municipalities and governments, just like they're kind of pushing the BDS resolutions right now in different counties and things. It's all a coordinated thing that they were doing.
Right. No, that is so true. So I think the first wave was they wanted to solidify like municipalities to stand with them. And so I remember like, I remember like right after October 7th, there were people that like showed up at the Sydney Opera House. But then I remember like a week after that, there were actual like organizations that were already in our country, that were already in the municipalities, that were already lobbying for them to make these resolutions.
Yes.
And I think so that when I saw that, when I saw it in Chicago at our doorstep, it was kind of one of those things where we had to do something.
It wasn't just that happening, though. There was this outpouring of Jew hatred we were noticing, and we were especially noticing the cancellation of Jewish voices within the city of Chicago. Like at the time, the Modest Yahoo concert, which you had tickets for, I believe, and was canceled because they said that they couldn't guarantee safety outside of the House of Blues due to the protesters. And Michael Rappaport's show was canceled at the time. We were watching Jewish book authors, their book tours being boycotted and canceled. I mean, not even like it shouldn't matter, but not even Israeli, just Jewish book authors that had nothing, or their books had nothing to do with anything political whatsoever, canceled. And then we started seeing just the uprising of anti-Semitism within the city. I remember feeling concerned walking around in certain neighborhoods with my Star of David on. I remember at the time, like wondering if other people in families of my son's school were Jewish. I literally remember sitting at home and being like, are they coming for us? Like, are they coming for us right now? Do they know where we live? Like, I remember that. Like, I've never felt that kind of fear. And coming from the Soviet Union, where my parents brought me here to escape that, it was like we were in like a bliss for so long, not knowing the levels of Jew hatred that was percolating here in this country. Like, it was bananas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think we had a glory period in the 90s, but
utopian.
Yeah, utopian kind of. And then so when you did come to America, you grew up in the North Shore with me. We both went to Deerfield High School. And so, like orbitively, my Jewry was so far detached. I mean, I still felt so close to like these stories that you talk about. Like my grandparents were in the Soviet era of just, and they also fought during World War II in the partisans. And so there was just these stories that you heard, and there were these warnings, but it just felt like, no way, not going to happen here, And so that juxtaposition, and we joke sometimes as being an October 8th Jew, is we really kind of sobered up to the fact that, no, this was percolating under the surface the whole time. At Dave Matthews shows that we went to in the 90s, we were ignorant to, as you see now, he's spewing Jew hate on it.
I think that, and when the attacks happened and we expected an outcry of outrage, and it was deafening silence, and it was, all these civil rights organizations that we have stood with and all the marches we were a part of, and especially when it came to the sexual crimes committed against women and the silence on all of that, it was terrifying. I just remember like vetting everybody in my life and being like, am I safe with them or do they want me dead? Yeah. I don't know right now.
Do you remember, like, I remember two things. I remember first, a lot of Jews were changing their name in Uber. I remember that like very early on. And then I remember in the Me Too movement, you know, that they, even Jewish women who are like wanting to be a part of that movement were excluded because they were Zionist oppressors, whatever. And so I guess, you know, a lot of the writing was on the wall, and we just wanted to assimilate into, I mean, look, America has been great for the Jewish diaspora. You know, we talk about the Soviet Union and how hard it was. And so this experiment in America has made so many freedoms for all minorities. And so we just want to be a part of that success and flourish here. And, you know,
our government historically, no matter what side of the political aisle you are on too, has always been a friend to Israel, the one democracy in the Middle East, an ally to the United States, and has spoken up against anti-Semitism. And at the time there was like ambiguousness happening about where America stood in support for its ally. And that was like a really hard pill to swallow. And it's still happening. Like, I don't know how supporting a democracy and an ally became such a political, you know, it's really divided across party lines. You could see in the polling now.
Yeah, I mean, what I really like about the American Jewish Alliance, or what we're attempting to accomplish, is like a reset. Like, we want to honestly talk about our allies, and sometimes it goes across party aisles. I mean, we know from our work with the Chicago Jewish Alliance, like calling a spade and doing what, you know, we do honestly feel a fiduciary duty to our community. So, you know, when the right does something good and we call it out, or when the left does something good, or when the left is not there for us, or when the right is not there for us. I mean, I think that's something that we have to have this self-actualization moment as Jews and say, look, when it gets this existential, we need to be honest about who's there for us, because the people that we took for granted are not. Some of them are not. And we need to just come to terms with that. I mean, it could be a political letter by your name, or it can be an organization, or it can be a group of people that we need to have a reset.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's been both really isolating and uniting. Like, I don't think people understand how politically divided the team at Chicago Jewish Alliance is. Right. Like, I'll speak for myself. Like, I would always consider myself like extremely liberal, Democrat voting. And there's this kind of like, you don't talk to somebody on the other side. And we have people on our team who were log cabin Republicans, right, who I would have never had a conversation with to really try to understand why their views are their views. And we have been able to find so much common ground. And that's been a blessing in all this to me.
Yeah, I mean, so two things there. I think like it has been so uniting in the sense of our community. Like, I feel like to be an anti-Zionist Jew right now would suck, because you're missing out on like a family coming together. And I don't just mean Jews. I mean Judeo-Christian, Western value people. Like, we have Hindus, we have Assyrians that we take phone calls with. I mean, it has just been so uniting there. But politically, what's been really interesting is kind of, you know, like when you look back in history, and I'm a political science major, is like the parties are malleable. They constantly change. And I think as long as you have a value system that like your North Star is, that's kind of who you want to be as a person, and like how you want to fit into society, being a better person. And I think that's more important as a person. Like, even if you disagree on political issues, I know we've even talked about like sensitive stuff like abortion in that group with people on all sides. And I think if people know you're coming honestly to a conversation and you care about each other, like, people need to get back to that kind of civil discourse, you know? And that's just one of the values that we hold here. I mean, that really quick, I would say American Jewish Alliance, it's American because it is Western values that we cherish, and Western values that have allowed us to flourish. And so,
what do you think are Western values?
Well, I think first off, like what we're talking about with civil discourse, like, you know, in other countries, you are not allowed to say certain things. And I think what's beautiful about this country is that, you know, the best ideas should win. But when I think of Western values, I think more so of the freedoms, the inalienable rights, the individual freedoms. Like, you should be able to practice any religion. You should be able to say whatever you want. You should be able to exercise all the freedoms that you have as an inalienable Western citizen, you know? What about for you? Like,
I think one of the things that comes up for me a lot, especially being an immigrant, is being able to achieve based on your own hard work and merit, I think is a really Western value that is really not seen or taken for granted. And it's really hard for me watching people in the streets calling for communism and socialism when, like, my family endured that.
Right.
And I know what that's like. And we escaped that to come here and have these freedoms that they're literally trying to tear down and take away right now.
Right. I mean, I think that's the antithesis is if you attack merit is the secret sauce for what makes this country great, is that if you do work hard, you can succeed. And I think that's what not just our culture, but like you see that with like the Asian culture and, our friends, the Hindus have done very well here. A lot of Arabs have done very well.
Yeah, we had conversations with people when the war was starting up in Iran again. And Iranians are one of the highest performing people who succeed, like with achieving higher education and really great positions in academia and in the medical industry and things. Like they're really astonishing people when they're allowed to achieve and succeed, which their totalitarian government is really oppressing them from being able to do it now.
Well, and I think that's what ferments anti-Semitism is, when you start not looking at it through a lens of merit, like if you start looking at it as equity and not equality, let's say, what you can start doing is villainizing people that do succeed. That kind of, because why should there be so many, Jews that do X and are in charge of this? That must be a conspiratorial thing rather than say, wow, this is an amazing accomplishment by a community. And that is something that a lot of different communities have success in different places. There's not a conspiracy. There's just different cultural things, like, for example, our community, there is a reason why we went into vaudeville and into comedy and into Hollywood, and if you look at everything on the surface, you can say, oh, well, everything's a conspiracy. But if you really, dig deeper, you could see there's some beauty to merit, and you should want to encourage that,
Absolutely. I want to get back to the ceasefire resolution. I think people have seen the video of you wrapped in the Israeli flag at City Hall. And every time I see that video, I think I've told you this before, but I am so endeared to you. Like, especially when they're screaming in your face and you just stand there and you're like, come on, like I could take it, what you got.
Yeah.
Like, I will never not have respect for you after seeing that video. Like, honestly, like this is why you have been the captain of the ship. Like, it's that ethos, it's that attitude that I think really drives Chicago Jewish Alliance and is now driving American Jewish Alliance. And like, I'm just so grateful that you showed up in that moment. And I'm so grateful to know you and everything that's come the past 2 years since I met you and got involved in Chicago Jewish Alliance.
Well, it's very reciprocal because for a mother of three and I know that we also work in the private sector together, but the architect of how we have created Simona is our COO and has created a mechanism for success. I mean, one person can go out there and do some crazy things, but really you have been the glue. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I know I tell you that too, and I better keep reminding you that every day because working with you, it really has been a honeymoon. It's been amazing in all of our endeavors.
I think you and I have very different approaches and different...
We've made each other crazy too.
We do make each other
not all honeymoon. Yeah.
But I think... we're able to balance our approaches into something that is very functional.
Right.
I would never take the risks or the like big moves you make. And I'm so grateful that you do that. And I think you wouldn't slow down and, cross the T's and dot the I's if it wasn't me being like, we got to do,
totally
this all the time. And both of those things are so needed in order to have helped CJA be as successful as it has, I think.
Definitely.
And of course, the rest of our amazing team who do everything every day and keep it running for us while we're trying to manage things in the private sector right now. But
right. But going back to the city resolution, so we were talking about, so that's how Chicago Jewish Alliance started. We got word that our city was going to pass this resolution for Gaza. I don't know if you were in the group at this time, but I created a WhatsApp group like everybody else to have a cathartic like space for Jews to just talk about what was going on. I remember putting out like an APB being like, okay, this is happening and it's happening at City Hall. We have to show up and protest, you know? Like I said, my grandpa was a partisans fighter, so was my grandma. So I did feel this like they're looking like an ancestral calling. Like if any time to show up for what you believe in, now would be the time. And trust me, I had no thoughts about going into Jewish advocacy at all. And then I got there. It was just me. It was 2 ladies and 2 guys, and it was a sea of 1,000 of them. It seemed like, and it was very allegoric to what I thought in the moment of like Israel being in a sea of, you know, actual colonization by Arab states. It did feel like, you know, 1 versus a million, you know, ratio wise, but there, and this sounds corny, but it did feel like for one of the first times in my life, besides going to the wall when I was 18 for the first time, I felt Hashem there. Like I truly felt like, you know, this is something, I know this sounds corny too, worth dying, putting it all on the line for my people, and for like, if Chicago falls and everything falls, to me, that's the erosion of Western values. And it's like, well, what are we doing here? And so I went and I met a couple people there, and in the chambers of City Hall, you know, there were people yelling racial epithets, baby killers, oppressors, every nasty thing you can think of, and they were pushing. And these women, who are my heroes, these 2 ladies, they were up against a lot of physical like aggression. But what happened was, at the end, when I walked out, it really did feel like this idea of never again has to be for every Jew everywhere. Like it wasn't like something where it got violent. I mean, it did get physically violent, but it wasn't like a pogrom. But we have to draw the line, and Jews need support wherever they are. So that day we filed the articles to start the Chicago Jewish Alliance with this idea that no Jew would have to be alone in this fight after October 7th in the diaspora.
I was not in the group yet. And I remember the first hearings of anything was the first rally on DePaul campus next to the Encampments. And I especially took notice of this because, you know, again, we were so feeling isolated and scared and really needing like community and not to feel so alone at the time. And you kept like seeing things over WhatsApp groups or different private Facebook groups and things. And it'd be like, we had a rally and nobody knew about it. And it was like 5 people who quietly gathered somewhere, and they were too afraid of letting the opposition find out about it. So nobody knew about it, unfortunately. And I kept seeing those kinds of attempts. And the rally at DePaul was the first one that was really public. Yeah. There was no hiding. There was no hiding that there was going to be a gathering. You weren't trying to do it in secret. And I remember messaging Chicago Jewish Alliance, and it was you who replied to me. And I said, hi, I have an 8-month-old baby. Is it safe to bring my baby to the rally? And you were like, absolutely, bring your baby. Yeah. So my mom came with me. We went to the rally. It was 1,000 people. Yeah. It was so cathartic and joyous, and there was singing and dancing, and it was like healing. Like my soul needed that. And I remember leading up to the rally, I was like, hey, was there anything I could do to help? And you were like, can you reach out to press? And I was like, okay, sure, I'll reach out to press. So I, called a couple newsrooms and got some press there. And then you were like, hey, you did that really well. Can you help more? And I have to admit, like, I have this tendency to like jump in, like feet first. Yeah. And I remember having a conversation with my husband, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to jump in. It's not going to take over my life. And then, like weeks later, it's like 24 hours a day in the WhatsApp group, like us mobilizing and planning and dealing with stuff. So I definitely did not keep my promise to my husband.
The times choose the woman, not the other way around, I think. But about that, back to my delusions, I guess, like I remember the encampments and we were getting calls from students because there were rumblings about like, oh, Daniel's starting something. And I remember getting calls and these students were very emotional about the fact that they couldn't go to class without like a huge encampment or getting, some of them have Jewish, like identifiable Jewish stuff, like a kippah or whatever. And they were like very afraid. So I just remember like assessing the situation. I remember being like, okay, so the encampment came here and just took this area over with no permission. Rather than fight them, why don't we do the same thing? And like, okay, that's their grass. This is our grass. And this grass is going to be all about love and a celebratory thing for the Jewish kids. And we're going to bring in a Jewish rapper, Kosher Dills from New York. And we're going to do a party here every Sunday for the Jewish students because, that's really kind of what wins in the end. Like love does conquer hate. And as you know, what happened was we were going to do it every Sunday. And on the second Sunday, it was such a big
Mother's
event.
Day.
Yeah, Mother's
Day. I drove back.
Mother's Day.
I drove back from Michigan with my family. We were away for the weekend. And I drove back to make that Mother's Day event because it felt so important to be there and be part of it.
And it wound up being crucial. I mean, that was the precedent that the university used to dismantle the encampment.
Yeah. We definitely had the rally, and I specifically remember the Mother's Day one. They came to us.
Right, the encampment.
The encampment attempted to come to us, and this isn't the only time they found out we're somewhere and try to come to us to do us harm when we're just like selling baked goods and singing. But they came to us, and they were the police had to block them off, and they were in keffiyehs and covered and had Hamas headbands on, and were screaming that they were going to October 7th all of us. Right. And I remember like a couple of the girls try to like be like, "You look hungry. Do you want some food?"
Yeah, well, they are Jewish. They're gonna feed. they're gonna feed people.
But yeah, and then people went into the encampment undercover after the rally, and they got a lot of evidence of weapons and other things within the encampment, which was then submitted and used to help finally and take down the encampment. And there was hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage to the property.
Sure. Yeah.
I remember to DePaul property from that encampment. It was
and by the way, we cleaned up everything and we fed the cops and the DePaul staff that showed up. They had some security, and we gave the enemy, I guess you can call them, the Hamas. We gave them baked goods, so we gave everybody baked goods and kept it clean. So
what a way to start.
what a way to start as like an organization.
Yes. And then people started reaching out. You started getting calls of like, I'm dealing with this, or my business is being harassed, or there's this teacher that's like harassing students, or and then the GBS yearbook thing happened, and we had to learn how to show up to school boards and to talk to superintendents and administration. And everybody thinks like you and I work in healthcare. We had no background in this, and we were just like, this looks like the right thing to do, and we're going to do that. Like there were no games being played. There was no like master behind the scenes strategy happening. It was like, this is happening, this person needs help, and we're going to show up and try to help them. Like that was it.
I do think like what separated us a little bit, because there was like a lot of October 8th organizations, but I do think what we saw early on was this was like an organizational play. Like there was anti-Semitism was everywhere. We were getting phone calls about like in the arts, there were kids in the arts, and like you mentioned, they were silencing Jewry from the zeitgeist with Matis Yahu and Michael Rappaport. And I think what we did very well, and you being the COO did very well, was helped with the division of labor and taking this, because yes, we're in healthcare, and maybe that's what gave us a unique perspective on the advocacy space, because we're used to making slim margins profitable in the healthcare space. So maybe we really saw that like we needed to get organized and develop these like processes to really make sure that we can deal with everything that was incoming, because it was a lot. And
the trick was to have processes so you could pull a lever and execute when this was happening, but not to over bureaucratize it so that the process prevented you from doing the action quickly. It was needing to stay nimble and mobile and move quickly while still having processes and things. Like, people don't know we have databases.
Right.
We have databases on K through 12 incidents. We have databases on university incidents. We have databases on incidents based by ward, based by city, based by municipality, things now too. And, we're talking to other organizations in the space about how we as organizations who have this information share this information, so we're not all just working in silos, and building relationships with other people and groups trying to do this kind of work, I think was really important. And to have kind of procedures of like, XYZ is happening. We have dealt with a similar thing before. We pull this lever and like XYZ happens.
Right.
And it happens quickly.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, and when we were building it early on, we made a lot of mistakes. Well, I could speak for myself.
We all made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, and I feel like we've been able over the last 2.5 years, 3 years?
2.5 years,
2.5 years, wow. To really figure out a formula on a lot, and I don't know about, and as we launched AJA, we're going to see how it works in different regions, but I think we've really saw a way to inform the public of what's going on. Like, we have a strategy of first we want to inform, and then we want to leverage that community. And really, when you show up, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. When you really care about those students, and when you have an indoctrinator in a classroom and not an educator, and you really care about your students, and you show up at those board meetings, you will affect change. I mean, I'm thinking about a couple teachers and professors that we went up against that were doing terrible things, and some of them were tenure. One of them was the head of an English department. Mm-hmm. One of them was taking the book Night and making it allegoric to the Palestinian conflict with her kids. I mean, really egregious things. And rather than just be apathetic and sit by, I think we figured out a way, at least we have done it in Chicago, to really, really get the community involved and really help purge some of these terrible, egregious things,
Yeah, I think the transparency has been really important. And we get yelled at and slapped on the wrist a lot for, going public with things. But we feel like our community deserves to know what's happening.
Right. I think we've had a lot of... An introspective moment that we had early on was that we were going to put the community before us.
Yeah.
We were going to do, because this is so existential, and because we're really doing this because we believe it's so existential for the Jews in the diaspora, we were going to make decisions that even if certain institutions that might not like it or whatever, we didn't care. And we even... Not
just institutions, donors or followers, we get people who were like, I was a big fan of you, and then you did XYZ, and now I'm never donating to you again, and take me off your newsletter because you're doing, this. We have always done and continue to do what we feel is right and transparent. And it's sometimes to the detriment of
our brand,
or anything. But I think ultimately, if you do the right thing and your heart's in the right place, it's going to balance.
And it's come around a lot of these issues where, we made these calls where we, I won't be specific, but where we did kind of put the community first. I do think at the end it did come around to where people kind of had more transparency and, maybe understood it more holistically after certain things happened. But no, we are transparent. I do think one of the things that we thought of early on that is unique to us as a Jewish advocacy group is how we raise funds is very unique. Mm-hmm. We don't take money. I mean, we'll take checks from anyone, big donors or whatever. But really, like we said, we're going to put the community before any donor. And what we've been able to do is really democratize how we get money.
And this was your idea.
Well, Thank you. But the implementation of the team, because, you know, we joke sometimes how we say we're like Bernie Sanders with getting these small checks. I don't know about how we philosophically fit in that bucket, but no, but really, like, what we do is we rely on the community to be members, and for $18 a month, the community has sustained that, and that money goes into security funds to protect, just not even our events, other Jewish events that we've protected. And so it's just truly amazing to see the community actually stepped up and became members. And so that allows us the autonomy to really do the right thing.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things from membership is the town halls that we have with our members, where we invite our members to these Zoom meetings or in-person coffees that we have, and they can tell us what anybody can email us at any time, but this is really a time for our members to come and tell us like what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they would like to see more of, what they feel like needs more support, and how we can help in those ways. And the coffee nights recently too have been great. But
I do think that is also unique. Like, we have our senior leadership go in front of, once a quarter, in front of all of the members, and we say, hey, give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, thank God so far it's been mostly good. We've had some ugly, and that's the nature of it. But at least we have a real communicative line to the Jewish community that we represent. And so
no red tape to come talk to us and tell us what is needed. We're here to hear it. So
yeah. And so I think that's something that's very unique about us. And I think as we grow with the American Jewish Alliance into other markets, we're going to be taking this formulaic, there's so much to it, and we're going to be, doing this in other markets. And what we're really going to try to do is, we're not a centralized power like there has been in the Jewish space, right? Like with these strong Jewish institutions, what we want to do is really put the resources to the people doing the work on the front lines. And so we're really going to figure out the best way to get the ammunition, to get the resources. And I think, we can talk about it now, but Dr. Charles Jacobs coming on, who wrote the book on this, Betrayal, about really how the Jewish institutions didn't show up at a time when we needed them. We're going to be instituting a whole intellectual backbone here with seminars coming on and really teaching people not just like how to do this, but the why.
Yes. Well, let's talk about Charles.
Okay.
He's amazing. Yeah. So I remember I first got connected to Charles through Pam, who's also on our board now.
Dr. Pam Scheinman.
Yep. And we had a Jew and Stew podcast with Pam and Dr. Charles Jacobs as well. And it was when we were preparing to host Dumasami, Washington.
Right.
And Charles Jacobs had just been here in Chicago for the passing of the anti-jihadist slavery resolution, which, again, they went to the cities with the African Jewish Alliance that were specifically targeted with the ceasefire resolution to now pass. Charles Jacobs has been, for those of you who have seen his podcast, has been fighting slavery in Africa and jihadist slavery and the slaughtering of Christians in those countries. Like, he was flying into Sudan in the 90s, literally physically saving slaves.
Yeah.
So he had just been here, and we were hosting Pam Dumasami, Washington, and Pam suggested I call Charles to help spread the word to the community that Dumasami was coming, so people can come hear his his amazing lecture. And I remember calling him, and I emailed him. I'm like, "Hi, such a and he's this Harvard educated, pristine, one of the founders of Camera. I'm nobody, right? I'm emailing him, and I'm like, "Hi, I got your information from Pam, and she said we should connect." He emails me back right away, and he's like, "Here's my phone number. Call me." And I'm like, "Okay." So I call him, and we have the best conversation. And I remember getting off the phone with him and calling you right away and being like, I just met the most amazing person. You have to talk to him. And I was also like, but I also want him to be my grandpa.
Yeah. No, I remember that conversation. And then you met him again.
In New York.
Yeah.
I met him in person for the first time in New York at a think tank. Yep.
Yeah. It was so remarkable. Our ethos were so aligned, but But I think just like intellectually, when you hear him speak about some of these issues and like the reason for why some of the things that are happening, it's, I definitely read the book Betrayal. You got to get the book Betrayal because it diagnoses a lot of these things.
Yeah. So you say this the best with Charles kind of folding Jewish Leadership Project into American Jewish Alliance and molding with us. We bring the grassroots mobilization. He brings that intellectual backbone. And it's not just his expertise and knowledge. He is coming with so many resources that are already created. He's coming with networks of experts.
Right.
So networks of experts who are, specialized in the K through 12 space or in the university space or in the, municipality level. So when we have our chapters coming on for AJA, we literally have experts who have success and expertise in these areas above the expertise we have already built with Chicago Jewish Alliance and our team to really help our new chapters coming on.
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
They're dealing with things.
And I think it will, like you said, cover the gambit of, Charles, like when we say we solidified the social capital, I feel like that's putting it lightly. I think it's about time that a lot of these homogeneous pockets of Jewish, everybody's doing something different, and it's about time we kind of connect them under one umbrella. And I think Charles, what better than Charles, the guy who's been doing it and speaking about it for years,
Yeah. So we have Charles, we have Pam, who again was like in the public square and fighting and combating anti-Semitism before you and me were we were in diapers, and she was out there fighting this stuff. And then we have Richard, who I don't want Richard is like a secret weapon.
Yeah.
This is a man who has built his career on executive coaching and really strategic thinking. And he's flying all over the world, really helping entrepreneurs. And
scale.
Scale and yep.
Yeah. Richard really is kind of the one who has the wherewithal how to build this and how to scale it, and how to do it in a way holistically where everything is matching up. I'm going with Richard to London for this ARC festival. Jordan Peterson's the one behind it, putting it all on, and Richard's always got his ear to the ground on who's the movers and shakers, so we're blessed.
We're so blessed.
I think a lot of it is you have to do the work, and a lot of it is Hashem.
Yeah. Our board is amazing.
Yeah.
Our team that is moving up to AJA. So we've had team members that were started at CJA who are moving up to AJA with us. I think most people know Ethan. He's been the workhorse of, especially with you and me and our busyness in the private sector at times. He's the one, since he was our first full-time employee, and he just really took the role and has been, I don't have words for the amount of hard work he has done and continues to do.
Yeah.
Is moving up to AJA with us. We have Elizabeth, who came from Stop Antisemitism and is sharp as a whip and such a go-getter and so on top of everything. And we have Lauren, who moving up to us with us as well, who's became my right-hand person in the organization, who I got to teach how I did all the everything, and she has done all the everything, making sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and all the emails are answered and everybody's responded to and all the agendas are everything, on top of her having a degree in data analytics. We are able to use our data in such smart ways and look at, anti-Semitic incidents and pull reports and all the things she's done. So she's coming up to AJA to help support teams coming on as they are launching their websites and their organizational systems and everything there, because without the organization component, I feel like the advocacy can't.
No, I agree.
Can't really happen.
And I would be remiss not to mention Susan Haggard, who has allowed this, what's crazy is, this has been our baby, and so when it was time to move on to American Jewish Alliance and finding that president who would take the baton for Chicago Jewish Alliance, a lot of thought went into it, and, it's really nerve-wracking to like give up that baby, or at least, you know, allow someone to take that mantle and run with it. And Susan has taken our brand and elevated it, has taken our abilities and processes and elevated it. And so we couldn't be left in better hands.
Absolutely.
To allow us to continue to build. So
I also want to, give a shout out to people who are no longer on the team, who really blazed the path. We have had, a lot of people who have been on the team at different points, some at the start, some joined. And, we've had people ebb and flow in terms of volunteers, and even some of the original founders who are no longer part of the team. And we're obviously so grateful for all the contributions and hard work
definitely
that they've all put in to get us to this place.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, first off, in the beginning, when you're in the advocacy space, it's not just the work that takes a lot out of you. It's also like what you're actually doing. Like we don't really talk about this, but a lot of times it's like you're dealing with levels of it. You're dealing with the actual work of the advocacy and then the trauma of what you're going through. And so for anybody who was able to put an ounce of time, and especially the founders, for helping create it all, it's thank you to everyone. Yeah, it's really, it takes a village, it's been everybody.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's really been all encompassing in our lives these last few years. And at times like a family, a lot of times like a family, and at times we fight like siblings. And but I'm forever grateful to you for really the vision, the voice, everything you do for us. And I don't know, again, you take you called me up and you're like, we're going to go national. And I go, oh shit, how am I going to do that? Like, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to create this. I have to do this. And you're like, we're just going to do it. We're going to go for it. And your gut, I've learned to trust your gut, that your gut is usually right on a lot of things, even if in the moments I don't always agree. Like a lot of times it pans out that your reaction or your thought on things is correct. And I've really come to appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you being able to deal with me because, sometimes I will have a thought, but like it's got to be manifested and it's got to be tangible. And so sometimes I'll say, Simona, we're going national. How are we going to do this? And so I just, once again, just speak to how remarkable you're, like a superhero, because I don't have 3 kids and 25 creatures running around my house and 2 cute dogs. And, and so when I just think about like what you're able to accomplish, it's just like, it's so inspiring.
I have a very wonderful husband who helps.
You do.
I think, when you meet people who are accomplishing a lot, there's usually a partner at home who's enabling them to accomplish the things. And, my husband's amazing, and I'm so grateful I have that support to be able to do these things. And I hope he feels as equally supported by me and his ventures. We're coming to the end here, and American Jewish Alliance is a really big undertaking. We're going to be launching a new website, for example, and it's not just a website; like it's everything. It's newsletter, events, ticketing, being able to have membership portals and access to member-only content, and having sister chapters within the domain with their own pages, with their own things. And that is an amazing, huge undertaking. But I think one of like the secret sauces has really been your eye and guidance with social media and being able to really amplify our work and our message across those platforms. So do you want to talk a little bit about how much work you do on our social media and have done?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're inundated with things going on. So I've had help, first of all, with social media always. So I just hope that I'm able to help curate the voice. So if I have
you have like help because, it's impossible. Like we've had social media coordinators as part of the team and
so
things,
I don't want people
graphics
to think.
people, but the voice of our voice on social media is our voice of Chicago Jewish Alliance, and I think that voice is all you.
Well, I'll speak to that. I don't know if the voice is me. The voice is somebody who believes that your Jewish identity is not something that you're going to negotiate. that you're going to always be unapologetically yourself. And I hope that's something we tell all kids, not just Zionist Jews. I hope that everybody has that ability to do. But really what it is it's a voice, hopefully, for a lot of the voiceless who feel on their own accounts they can't express certain things, So what it really is hopefully as we scale this and we grow other chapters, and we've already found some of these people kind of, but that is really what the voice is. The voice is loud and proud. It's unapologetic to the Jewish identity. And so that's kind of been what I've used to navigate a lot of it. And again, back to calling out spades a spade. Like sometimes we do post things that might not be right politically or might not feel right politically, but it's something that we have to do because we have to let our community know about it,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I want to add that, just like the ethos of our very first events, where it was really about Jewish joy and holding our ground, there's a lot of Jewish joy in our social media mixed in. Like there's so much rage across, my social media feed is like, did you see this awful thing that happened? Did you see this awful thing that happened? Did you see this Jew being attacked here? And I think we as Jews, what like really keeps us, we have a love for life.
Mm-hmm.
We value life, and we value the people always talk about how in Israel, if there's a funeral procession and a wedding and they are crossing paths, the wedding has the right of way over the funeral because we really do value joy and life. And so I think that is an important aspect of our social media.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that is what we're preserving. Everything else is peripheral to that. I mean, that's all we want is to be ourselves, to enjoy life like everyone else, and so hopefully like all the other advocacy work we do is, I mean, we always say like our North Star is the next generation of Jews internally. And so it's really important for that next generation to see that Jewish joy and to know what we're fighting for, and so hopefully that is the prevailing thing to our voice. And then after that, it's, having fun pointing out the hypocrisy of the opposition, because really we are about love and life, and some people aren't.
I think one of the biggest rewards for me is having my oldest child really see and appreciate and respect the work we're doing. And it really came, I spoke at the Daily Plaza menorah lighting right after the shooting in Australia. And I had to have an armed guard stand next to me. Like I remember people backed out of speaking, and I've wanted my child to never have to hide his Jewish identity, and I didn't want him to see me hiding my Jewish identity. This is why I never took off my Star of David. I never took my mezuzah off the door. And I just remember standing there at the podium speaking, and there's a sea of people. There was cameras and people, and my child is standing there watching me.
Can I tell you, this is one of my biggest joys? Like, as somebody who doesn't have kids, I might have said this to you before, but like, I love the fact that your child gets to see a strong female Jewish woman get up there and do that. Like, I had strong female Jewish women raise me, honestly. And so I feel like I am living vicariously through him, or that he's living through what I got to see, with my like mother and my aunt, who were instrumental in the Illinois Holocaust Museum. Like, and so I love seeing that. I think we spoke at a synagogue once. I don't know. I just love.
Yeah, he came when we spoke at the synagogue.
And I love that he gets to see mom in that situation, because we all get to see you as a hero, but we're adults and we understand the situation. And as he gets older and your other children get older, they get to understand that, and that's beautiful.
That, and then my dad called me. So we helped a teacher who reached out to us, who knew my family. And my parents were friends with her parents, and she didn't know this when she reached out to Chicago Jewish Alliance.
Oh, I think I know.
That I was involved at all. And, we helped. It was a long process, but we helped in that situation. And her dad called my dad to thank him for the work CJA and that I did to help support his daughter. And my dad called me and told me how proud of me he was.
Oh, wow.
And
beautiful.
Yeah, those moments are really why we do any of this.
Yeah, and anybody who is on the fence about doing any work or feels like they're very consumed with what they have going on, I do think there's something to when you do something for someone else, you know, like it really kind of gets you out of your own head and your own paradigm, and it's just a lovely thing because you get to go out, you get to help people, be a part of a community. So if you do go to JewishAlliance.com. There you can
launching very soon.
Launching very soon. I think we have a landing page up at the recording of this, but it's just, and it doesn't even have to be us, you know. I think it doesn't even have to be Jewish, really. It just has to be something, because I think when you start to do something for the community, you really do. You transcend. You have a new capacity for time, love, you know, camaraderie. So I'm so glad to hear that anecdote. That's beautiful, Simona. It's great. Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited for the future. It's been a wild ride. It's only been like 2 years, but it feels like it's been like 50 with everything we've done.
Right.
I'm glad to be on this ride with you.
Couldn't imagine doing anything else in my life now that I'm here. Even though I never thought I would be here, I am so glad to be doing this with you.
Yeah, both of us are like, we just want to be at home in our pajamas and not like out at an event. But you know, you show up when you need to show up, and we have continued to show up, and we'll continue to show up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simona, for doing that.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Jew and Stew. On this episode, we talked about the origins of Chicago Jewish Alliance and what we have next for American Jewish Alliance. Remember, go to YouTube, type in Chicago Jewish Alliance, and subscribe to Jew and Stew. Like, comment, and let us know who you want us to have on the podcast next. Thanks so much.
Follow the American Jewish Alliance to stay in the loop, and subscribe to this podcast so you can see what's coming next. We are going to have speakers that represent the entire spectrum of the Jewish community, from philosophical thinkers, from soldiers, people on the front lines of advocacy work on universities. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.